Kuta derara Aidega Ganesha Lamotaki Aidega Ashoya Shara Aidega Ganesha
colorful መሆን ሊሆን ይችላል ምናልባት
አይ አይደለም
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 ሬዞሉሽኑ ምንም ችግር አይፈጥርም
ችግር አይኖርም ሽማግሌው ላይ ጫወታው
አጋጣሚ የተገኘ ሙዚቃ
ነው።
አንድ እንግሊዛዊ ጋብዣው ፌስቲቫሉን ሊገመግም ሄዶ ይዞልኝ መጣ። ድሮ ልጅ ሆኜ የቀረጽኩት ነው።
አሁን እዛ እንግዲህ ሰው እየሰማን ነው።
እሺ
ለምን እንደሆነ ግራ ገብቶኛል።
አይ በማንም ታዳኔ ገደቃ የኔ ለታሚ ባይና ትላቦላ ኡላት ባይና ቦሻ ታጎዳልዌ ቦንከን ሰሎ ታግና ኩርቻ ዶጃ ዶጀ ማለከን ታግና ሳና ዲባ ኑሶ ጉታ ቀልዲና ዳዮ ዳይጣ ዳሽን ኮቲና ሄደ ደሎቴማ የሲላገሽን ዳስኪና ካይቴ ካራ Kauga sarena baita silamo molto canta o sole tutto mi toyo bacina sare uga ai ankara bala tu mai neni highway awai fe biaga dele de delta utai neni ke ko malena wala tangai saro amare de lumina maska prerai otoro ka gantona bila kai mata kansai de medo wala
Rojel berada
des para ai si kamma lo kantai
gananga tu wenju jono no awara life mantian we ke dot wenju wala dot war dun man waran where okay Kawar ganata kan benne jira man magana ngata live ko no mo can trap
bonke kau dada na ye tara ga doi kau dada tara na rula ga doi basta kau halala na po sa kamba kau da kena gala ga doi
okay nani mau kabar gananga to bawi wayna live kara gananga to man tijuan
dalan dana gamo na
oda to kabar benne jira ka loy man magana ngata tiyo
go ka kau dada na kama ga doi ai dada kama na ai ka ga doi
man ma duk we cha ne jira kera kwara na muwa ga gana
confirm ona ai tol ba ka sa ga doi no ai do de ka ai kana de ga doi
bare wo ka jira na ya chante ne wo okay
sa den sa wo de ga kana ar ko yu ke ga si tu bu sa ta ke do ada fe tu ka te doi itu ani gu fen tani ga doi
sama
እንግዲህ sama ko na tro
እኛ ነው እንትን እዚህ እንትን ማንለው ምክንያቱም ያ እንትን ቢሆን ጥሩ ነው ለምን ስቶፕ እንዳደረገ አይደል ነው Okay. እንደሱ ከሆነ እንግዲህ አንድ ያንን አሁን ደህና ነው በትክክል አሁን ደህና ነው። ይሰማል አይደለ? ይሰማል ዶክተር ታደሰ?
ችግር የለም፣ ምንም አይደለም። ባልሰማም
Thank you, viewers, for joining the Indigenous Media live show. I hope you can hear us or you can also see us. So today, my guest is Dr. Wolde Tadesse. Dr. Tadesse is an elder of Gamo, indigenous peoples in South-west Ethiopia. Dr. Wolde sits on as a board members on a different international institutions that promote sustainable livelihoods and protect the rights, the protection of natural environment and land right, cultural and autonomy. So Dr. Tadesse has a very rich academic credentials and achievements. So I will invite Dr. Tadesse to come and introduce himself. So Dr. Tadesse, tell us more about who is Dr. Tadesse?
Thank you, Nico. Thank you for inviting me to this media. I'll first make a short statement which I have to do as an elder and as a resident here. My first statement is that my elders in Gamo have not delegated me to speak on this subject on their behalf, so I haven't got their permission. So whatever I say is something I say on my behalf, and I'll be held responsible for my opinions. The second point is I am affiliated with Oxford University, and my opinions do not reflect that of the university. The third point is I do not belong to any political group, Ethiopian opposition or pro-government. So my opinions are not meant to underline any political kind of view, but simply an elaboration of what the impression I have on different subjects. Having said this, I just want to say you correctly introduced me. I went to school in Gamo, various schools. My father was a school teacher, the first Gamo school teacher. So as the first school teacher, he moved from place to place in that region, in the mountain region. And that gave me a childhood that was that really is rooted deep in my heart. So I have special affection to the mountains and valleys and the different markets and the sacred sites and elders and so on. So I grew up herding lambs and animals, family herds in the Chencha and other areas. I then went to school in Balta, Gerese, Abaminch, Boroda, Chilashe, schools because of the mobility of my father. I and our family had to follow him. And finally we landed in Abaminch where I finished secondary school, but moved to Addis Ababa, to the Prince Bredamarian Laboratory School, where I was one of the few students selected from secondary schools around Ethiopia. And then joined the university when it was Haile Selassie First University, and graduated when it was Addis Ababa University, because there was a name change because of the changing government. Then I served in the Ministry of Culture, and then came to the UK to do my master's and PhD. So in the UK here, I had the London School of Economics. I had my master's and PhD in social anthropology. From there, I got hired with the Max Planck Institute for Social Anthropology as a senior researcher in Halle Zale in the former East Germany, that became part of Germany later on. And then after 4 years of service there, I moved to research there. I moved to California to take responsibility for the Christensen Fund, where I was there program officer for on the African Rift Valley program, which included Ethiopia, Kenya, the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, and some diaspora communities in Europe and the United States. During this time, I've gained some experience, and then in the meantime, I was a trustee of various boards, including IPA, Indigenous Peoples Assistance Facility, the Porini Association in Kenya, a woman-led organization, the Debra, another woman-led organization in California, the Global Diversity Foundation, based in Italy, but working in Morocco. And recently, I think I proposed for another trustee role, working on livelihood issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tadesse. I think this is a very rich experience. As I said, you have worked on so many issues, on indigenous issues. And one of the things that is affecting the indigenous world today, and also other communities worldwide, is COVID-19. COVID-19 is in the lips, on the lips of everybody, and has affected different communities worldwide. And the main community that are affected are vulnerable groups, including indigenous peoples. Ethiopia has reported cases of 2,000, and also 20 people have been reported dead. Which in Gambela today, I think they are saying that they have already recorded one case, which is very tragic in the area which is along the border with South Sudan. The Ethiopian government has adopted measures, including a ban on public gathering, social distancing, and also a state of emergency. What do you say about those measures? And also, what is the impact of this COVID-19 to the Gamo people and also other indigenous community in the country?
This is a very difficult question, but I'll try to answer. This is not the first time indigenous people are facing problems. They've faced waves of conquests, waves of attacks. They've experienced, like the rest of the country, Italian colonialism. They're being confronted with development and development agencies. They have had various epidemics to which not many came to their assistance. But this is the first time they are sharing some kind of a pandemic with everybody else in the world. While the rest of the world has the power probably to confront the disease, the facilities and so on, indigenous people in our part of the country seem to find themselves in much weaker position. But again, having had the experiences of smallpox and other things, they've had ways of coping with certain kinds of epidemics. But the scale and the magnitude of this new COVID-19 is what nobody has a clear idea yet, at least except the countries that have recently experienced it in the last few months. So their experience might help us gain some benefit in coping with the disease. But whether that would reach to our regions, we're a bit marginal, still 600 kilometers from the capital, and for resources and knowledge and very effective things to reach that distance is very questionable because such resources are much needed at the center and within radiuses the further you go out of the center. For this reason, this may hit our people, our indigenous people, more. And the different measures are taken to combat COVID-19, while being quite similar around the world, but the effect varies. Even before COVID had arrived in Ethiopia, panic had already hit the country as they prepared to combat the pandemic. One thing you can see is it's affecting low-income people. I could cite you an example from my own community. We are weavers in the rest of Ethiopia, itinerant weavers. So many weavers their markets were shut in Addis Ababa. So that hit them first because that was their products woven at home in Addis Ababa as migrants and in the homeland, are sent to the markets in Addis Ababa. When your markets are shut in Addis Ababa, then it's a complete collapse of your livelihood, which brings cash, which you pay for tax and schooling and, for various reasons. The second thing, the daily laborers who went to Addis in search of work were the second affected. So they had to leave in a coordinated effort, leave the capital because they didn't want to be victimized when COVID takes place. Then obviously the poor and the marginal are viewed as the disease carriers. So some brilliant guy suggested they should immediately leave to their homeland. So they had to leave. So that was the next wave of leaving. There were many incidents in the past 2 years pre-COVID, but I think that your question focuses more on COVID. So now, as they were preparing for COVID, the government and communities, there were a series of things happening as if COVID was not enough. There was a locust swarm affecting the whole valley, the Rift Valley and the South-west. There's cholera epidemic raging in these communities, especially the Gamo peoples and the mountain Gamo. And there have been severe rain and flooding that destroyed plantations. By plantations, I mean small-scale farmer, bananas and fruits and avocados and mangoes and cotton and maize, and nearly all the harvests were washed away. So the rain has not stopped now, and it's feared that the locust thing would grow fiercer, and the malaria season is also coming. So it's layers and layers and layers of problems, overwhelming problems that are devastating life. And I don't know what COVID, when it happens, then it would, I think, find a fertile ground. And that's my guess, but I'm not an expert, medical expert. But I think the poor and the marginalized populations, wherever, as we see in the US and other places, are the ones that will be victimized. So I fear for indigenous people. And one more point is in the measures taken as a precaution towards preventing or restricting or combating COVID, there were some economic measures that were taken that would also hit the poorer sections of communities very much, like farmers that sell chat. Look, it's like if you banned coffee, for example, that would be a huge loss for farmers. Now, in many places in our country, the mira or chat or cat adulis is another source of currency and people do not get revenue through it, it's a big loss for them. So also people who produce alcohol in their domestic alcohol, these are the ones that provide things cheaply for communities. And people cannot afford to buy industrial drinks. And alcohol is partly some addictive. And as what I understand here in the UK, for example, for people who are addicted, you provide a way of, dealing with addiction. It's a health problem, just like COVID. So I thought these people would be given attention so that they have access to a limited amount of alcohol, as well as the people who sell alcohol and chat and other things would have a means of survival.
Thank you, Dr. Tadesse. I think that is a very interesting point to raise. I raise this thing because COVID-19, we are still within, and we have not really come out of this COVID-19, and I don't know how Ethiopia and other Eastern Africa countries are going to cope with this pandemic. We are still in Gamo, indigenous people. You yourself, the Gamo have a very good culture of initiating elders to reach to that stage. And yourself, you have gone through that. And today you are elders. When you introduce yourself, you talk about you not representing the elders of Gamo. This beautiful culture, can you tell us what it is and what is the process to become an Gamo elder?
Look, you just said we are a very old population with many thousand years of agriculture according to recent archaeological findings. And such things cannot happen without a structure of governance. So we've had our governance for a long time, and we don't know when it began. But surely, if you're an agricultural community, and if you're an agro-pastoral community especially, you need some order, structured order, to keep as a human community. Keeping terraces in your mountains, keeping pastures and fields and resettlement areas separate. And I think this requires a degree of governance that's comparable to any government, any human government. But the way we see government, by government I mean a nation-state structure rather than a given, a named government. So the way the young people see this is they departmentalize life, like Department of Health, Department of Agriculture, Department. So this is not the case with us. We have people, hereditary elders or families responsible for opening mountain pastures, for closing the pastures for a given period, for this grass to produce seed, or for certain feasts, for example. And there are some who initiate agriculture. So the elders, a given number of elders would be the ones who initiate exactly agriculture, because they tell you the dates and when you should plant and which kinds of crops should be. And so there's big rituals that take place. And during harvest, it's the same. So we have mountain pastures where young people take turns to take care of animals, and we are dependent on our mountains to have fertile fields and plots. And so this interdependence between people, mountains and fields needs a very structured labor force, and the labor force must be organized in certain formats. So by elderhood, some people understand as if it was some form of gerontocratic institution. It is not. In Gamo, someone is elder when they are married and have a child. You're already a young family. The head of a young family is an elder because he has the responsibility of having the fireplace and having his plot and fields and some animals that can go to the mountains to graze. So there is nothing our governance structure doesn't do. And to belong to that, you must show maturity and have to be chosen by the community to represent them. So once you are chosen an elder, you can speak for your land. You can speak when you're sent to speak to government. You can delegate your community or any other community or take oaths on behalf of, with other elders, with other communities next to you, and you're in the marketplace, wherever it may be. So you can strike peace, you can, consult, and then keep meetings going. We don't take minutes in our meetings, but a case can take up to 2 years to resolve between two communities or between two groups of people or whatever. So to this day, I think we manage our affairs. And you take things to court when they're unmanageable, when the two complainants or litigants see that they will not be satisfied with involvement of elders. But whoever direct their case to communities always benefit, because it keeps also relations in a nice way. So you don't betray your community and go away, because it's harsher elsewhere. I remember in Arboria, among the Arboria, they would ask the police to release their people who committed some crime. They would want the police to give them back. The reason they say, when someone is in the police, they are fed, they are kept well, so they think it's a reward to keep thieves in the police, because they will be handled in a nice way. But here you can assign them to do labor, community service, taking animals to the desert and keeping animals in the camp, or or other things, or paying a bull to the community.
Well, Dr. Tadesse, someone of your caliber, someone with your experience, someone who have really achieved a lot, some may say that your conviction for the culture that made you to become an elder, and the ceremony that you went through does not really reflect the modern, if I may just quote it, quote unquote, modern. What do you say to those people who think about that?
I think people view indigenous life and elderhood from different angles. Some see the world like government. Some see the world as a human habitat. So I see myself and my people as members of the world globe. We are just there, and we have the right to live the way we think is appropriate. We love our livelihood. We love our animals, our insect gardens, our barley, the streams and our meadows. And that love is expressed by the close link we have to our land and to our other community members. It's others have always judged us from their point of view, from their angle. But it's wrong to judge other people for the way they lie, the way they live, the way they feed themselves, the way they grow things, the way they dance, and the way they use their language. We love our language. We sing very well. We everything human we do with our community, in our land, and so on. But the real threat is, rather than they're labeling that this is a backward culture or so, the real threat would be to lose your land, because all your knowledge, all your community knowledge, indigenous knowledge, it is inscribed in your land, in the trees, in the in the grasses, in the animals, in the birds, and in the various kinds of wildlife and the landscape. So the moment we lose our traditions is when we pretend to be others, or when others want us to leave, drop everything we have, take our traditions like a shirt, take it off our body, and then leave us bare, then we're not the same as we used to be. So the thing is, I think it's the greatest thing for any person is to be who they are, and to own their tradition, to speak their language, and to express their love and dislike, in the language they understand, and to have a universe for themselves, a world from which they feel human. And we all feel human in our own places. And those kinds of opinions you say, try to dehumanize us, to make us less human. And they would always want us to look like them, which is impossible. You are from Gambela, I'm from Gamo. We can live in an amicable way, but I cannot be a Gambela man. I can only be if I married a Gambela woman and I produce Gambela siblings. And you can be the same if we mixed, but other ways of expressing disregard are always dangerous. And I think we've had lots of this experience in the past, and I think people are understanding it's valueless, and that we are all not so different as we think we are. Some may think they are superior because they are Christians, others may think they are superior because they are Muslims, others may think, including indigenous people, we may think others are simply not worth it. So the thing is, I think it's the way we look at things must be balanced and fair, and appreciate creation and and nature. In that sense, I think I've never bent to this kind of thing. I've always respected my people. As a young boy, I grew up, delivering errands for everybody. I was the son not only of my parents, but I was the son of the neighborhood, the community. So I was their son. I'm still grown in that kind of feeling. And it's sad when your children do not share that kind of feeling. They don't see themselves as the youth of a community. Rather, they see themselves a youth of this. I don't know. I don't see that kind of thing. I don't know if I can call a child in the neighborhood and ask them to please go and buy me something from the shop when I need help. But that was the kind of thing we did. We herded animals for others, went to the market, carrying things for them, and brought something from the market that belonged to them. So we were always there to help, like Boy Scouts did in the past. We were Boy Scouts for everyone, or Girl Scouts for everyone.
Great message, Dr. Tadesse. I think let's take a break and come back and continue with this great message.
Gamo gofanaitu, gistabanga utsamana oisa esa, yitori tako, sube, bujustar gamo echase, diti bangadere, sa. Ambassador, Mirabo Gamo, Boroda Gamo, Arbaminche Gamo, Gamona Gamo, 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 Batea Mungo Gita, Gamona Oroza, Shendora Torosata, Anjalana Tuko Andro, Arena Amisa Koto, Uchasa, Biti Bangare, Hatsa, 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 Mammo Jore, Mammo Jore, Mammo Jore, Mammo Jore, Mama Elage, Mama Elage, Buribana, Lita Galana, Lita Galidi, Banga Janana, Gammo Gofa, Gammo Gofa, Mammo Jore, Mammo Jore, Mammo Jore, Mammo Jore, One, one, oh, one, one, oh, La Haisi, one, oh, La Haisi, one, oh, La Haisi, one, oh, La Haisi, one, oh, Jarapangoda, Zuma Hatangoda, Demba Derangoda, Zadai Onana, Zuma Kodizana, Wezai Onana, Zuma Kodizana, Android Onana, Zuma Kodizana, One, one, oh, one, one, oh, Mammo Jure, Mammo Jure, Mammo Jure, Mammo Jure, Mama Elage, Mama Elage, Gofa Naito, Oida Naito, Gidicho Naito, Zaise Naito, Gammo Naito, Gofa Naito, Shakoi Baina, Isi Aina, Sabonga Giza, Isi Awana, Mammo Jure, Mammo Jure, One, one, oh, one, one, oh, La Haisi, one, oh, La Haisi, one, oh, La Haisi, one, oh, La Haisi, one, oh, Iraka Ogoda, Shawara Goda, Maino Zuma Goda, Zala Sosoro Goda, Maskara Fansa Goda, Sambara Gondale Goda, Lama Buluka Goda, Lama Dunguza Goda, Fasigati Goda, Apasa Apa Goda, Haile Demba Goda, Lenta Gongala Goda, Lanta Zuma Goda, Sambo Kawa Goda, Jango Zuma Goda, Done Kashawara, Sosa Soka Goda, One, one, oh, one, one, oh, La Haisi, one, oh, La Haisi, one, oh, Afo Kumako Gamoga Ogaga.
Okay. Welcome back, Dr. Tadesse, for the second time. I want to take you to your great work that you did when you were working with the Christensen Fund, a foundation based in California, and that supports the indigenous peoples to protect the ecology and the biodiversity of the natural environment. You organized a very successful music festival that brought a number of diverse ethnic groups to perform the cultural music in Ethiopia. And that was, I believe, was the first time in the Ethiopian history for a new image of Ethiopia to emerge. Can you share to us what has happened since?
I think I should rather say what was it a bit, and then probably what happened since later, if that's okay with you.
Oh, please.
So yeah, this was an attempt by our program strategy, which I designed with the help of the director, to bring indigenous people in Ethiopia to the center stage. They've never occupied the center stage, so they needed to be viewed, understood, and show their richness also to gain respect. Some people knew that there are good kinds of food, others knew they made very good honey meads, and others knew they're very good plaiting hair. Still others knew other things about indigenous people. So the first attempt was to really make a grant to the Ministry of Culture to hold a national music festival at the stadium in Addis Ababa. And that was Ambassador Tashoma Toga was the minister. Then he happily acknowledged, liked to organize it, and then they successfully organized one. Then we had a festival in Hawassa, the southern region, for 56 ethnic groups, which also went successfully on that year. So it was another 90,000 US, I think. It cost us, the Hawassa festival, that covered transport and per diems for the groups that come from the 56 groups all the way to Hawassa from wherever they are. Then on the same year, we launched the 1000 Stars Festival in Abaminch and brought the Global Music Exchange from Bath to share their experience of organizing festival with local organization called Guge. Guge is the biggest, tallest mountain in the region, in Gamo. So it was named with that mountain, and it's a sacred land also, Guge. So Guge and Global Music Exchange had the first festival. And then, bit by bit, Global Music Exchange retreated, and Guge came to the forefront. And then finally, another organization called ARC joined in. So for 8 years, Abaminch became in the center in the south, where 56 ethnic groups from all over the place came and danced for three days and nights. So it wasn't simply dance and music. It was about costumes, it was about hairstyles, it was about indigenous people coming with their food, meals, to display, every day to say, this is what we eat, and come with different kinds of alcoholic beverages made from honey, like edge, and with different names in different communities. The Kafa, the Arbore, the Hamar, all came with their own version of it, and it was amazing. So after the festival, in the evening, they would go to the hotels and restaurants and dance, and the impact was that the whole city, Abaminch, became a multicultural center. It used to be in the past because it was the Omo peoples, and the Gamogofa had their capital in Abaminch, and so we had a big hospital built by the Norwegians in Abaminch, and all patients, when it was a malaria season, we'll have many of our pastoralist brothers and sisters come to Abaminch hospital for treatment. So some prisoners would come to Abaminch and learn Gamo and Amharic and go back to their places. And there were various provincial policemen who served in these different places. So when the pastoralists came to Abaminch, they were coming to meet people also they knew, and people who spoke their languages as well. But so leaving alone these side benefits, it helped the growth of the town. So we had audience from the US, the UK, France, and Israel mainly, and hotels started, seeing the prospect of such development, tourism, and so on. And many people also got recognition. So since then, Southern music, the music of indigenous groups, really got currency. And the national theaters and the universities were where we first experimented. We sent groups to Addis Ababa University, to teacher training institutes in Nazareth, and elsewhere. And there was actual movement of people and traditions, and some extraordinary people coming with extraordinary dances. And this was unbelievable. So we had many supporters of indigenous people. And simply because everybody is indigenous, as you know, but they take the ideology of some other nature and then try to deny their past and try to divorce themselves from the traditions that are too close to them and too nice to drop. So that's what we did. Really, we were encouraging cultural diversity and living together. So people thought the Hamar and Dasanet were our enemies and would never dance together, but we proved it to be wrong. They danced and they made many friends, and they usually dance when they're not in conflict. Every community does. Look at us, I mean, we dance with every other kind of thing in times of peace, and if you have conflict, you say, no, you don't know these people. So that was it, really, and people have good memories now. But it was banned after 8 years of really good building of relations. It was banned for reasons we didn't know. So 42 indigenous organizations with licenses from charity, the charity office in Awasa, were also banned together with the festival. So we tried our best to get it reinstituted, and went to the advisor in the foreign office like Patrick Gilks, who had close connection to people in power, and he helped me draft a nice letter saying what a resource this is to not to waste. But finally I sent the letter to different officers and powerful guys in government, including the Mr. Barakat Simon, but it didn't help finally because people did not like it. And what we were told was that they didn't want anything that competes with in terms of attracting the tourists with some established kind of regions and populations. So as you know, the music, for example, festivals of some groups were overblown and were made public in the radio, TV, and of other groups completely ignored. And that was, very undemocratic. And when you celebrate the festival of, Chambalala, or the festival of the northern Ethiopian girls and women, and if you deny the recognition to Maskala, which we celebrate in Gamo and Gofa and Walaita, and if you didn't celebrate some Gambela or Kafa festival, there is much injustice. But by that I mean it's real injustice, not to recognize that all of us humans are having various kinds of spiritual and cultural experiences. Kind of recognize them and do not recognize others of your citizens. So that thing was denied, and later on I also, because we've done it for 9 years actually with the festival in Addis, I think we've left a good imprint, and there was no need to fight over this subject, because music and festivals are not for fighting. They are for winning friends and carving space for peace. And they've done that. And these people are not fighting now. Unlike the other places of the country, the indigenous groups here do not have problem with one another. They may have occasional incidents where other outsiders are involved who do not respect their traditions, who do not respect them as human beings, and who do not respect their lands also as belonging to them. So this was what I think we did, But this was complemented with lots of literature. We've compiled over 5 dictionaries, Oromo dictionary, of one called Borana Cultural Dictionary by Toby, someone, Dutch missionary. We got it published. We published a book by Cynthia Salvadori about the slaving ivory and slaves. Continuation of the book by Major Darling. We had dictionaries in a grammar book in Amharic and history books of Kafa and various people. And we supported the training of PhD qualification of some indigenous students and supported the 2 indigenous guys to go to IFAD for training to qualify serving international organizations. And so I think we've tried our best to include our people at the center stage, whatever that center stage may be. We've made an attempt to show that there are very brilliant young guys, very brilliant musicians and dancers, a very rich tradition of food and of costumes and all kinds of skills and so on.
Thank you, Dr. Tadesse. I think that is a very interesting angle, because I think we need to respect each and every culture, each and every society in Ethiopia, if we are to mean that equality and justice will prevail in the country. And one of the best way forward is bringing people to perform, to connect through music and so forth. It's too sad that something of that sort has not been given priority and support. And of course, probably those, the TPLF are no longer, which are blamed for the past human rights violations and so forth, are no longer in possession. There is that tendency that the current regime can maybe promote such kind of event. Any idea of approaching them and to bring this live event back?
I think we are always prepared to re-enliven. Music gives life, because you have music in everything: agriculture, marriage, road building, labor groups among farmers and pastoralists, initiations, rituals. Life is full of music and poetry. And to deny a platform for all of this, and to simply run 3 or 4 national kind of buildings dedicated to the arts, I think is, for a place like, for a country, a great country like Ethiopia, a little bit less than what she deserves. If you made every platform, every sacred site, every market, open air marketplace, a place of festival and dancing and music, people would release their emotions, release their anger, and also rejoice, and also celebrate their herding traditions, their farming skills. They can sing for their crops and for their best bulls and so on, and for the beauty of their girls and young men. So that's life. You sing for your mountains, you sing for your rivers, you sing for everything that you see and you live with. And to be denied of that opportunity is to make your life void. And I think it's frightening when you think of this. And our life is full of, vitality, that we can easily switch that vitality off, like we switch a light of an electric lamp on the ceiling. So I think the present in the Gamo zone, they have asked us if we could try to do something for re-establishing the festival. And we're saying it's not a one-zone solution. This is a national thing. We should all be a singing nation. We should be all dancing nation. Who would love us when we fight? Who would like us as nations that are always ready to kill one another? That's very silly. And music changes everything. Changes really eases, kind of greases the aggressive beat of us and relaxes our systems. So we launched another festival in Kenya. At the same time as the Thousand Stars Festival was going, with Kibulini Trust in Kenya, we organized the Kalacha Desert Festival. It grew in popularity. It continued even after ours was stopped. So I think I always do appeal, and I strongly appeal for the Ethiopian government to pay attention to this, to give a space, a cultural space for the public to dance their maskal, to dance their chambalala, to dance whatever is their traditional, national, original thing, without the interference of anybody. Just keep them loose to go to their marketplaces and dance with their loved ones like they used to do. When we try to order culture in certain specific ways, when we try to tell people how to dance, how to sing, what text, what lyric to use, that's where music and and art start falling and crumbling. We should hear about gossip, we should hear about all kinds of things people like and don't like in their music, because this must grow unrestrained. We should give it a free rein, I believe. So the Festival of the 1,000 Stars had that kind of thing. We didn't tell people what to sing about. They came with their own songs. And there's no brilliant institution that communities are brilliant. Farmers and pastoralists and agro-pastoralists, they know how to deal with each other. They know how to sing about the other. They know also how to tell about their anger and unhappiness. But ultimately, all of us express something and go from that place relaxed and looking forward to meet for the next season. Like Maskal Wolf, the bird that comes for every Maskal, with everybody remembers, and say when that bird arrives, then they have to do certain things. So the 1,000 Stars Festival had once become like the Maskal Wolf that comes once a year, where everybody would come with their clean clothes and, also have the urge to meet the girl from the other community to dance with, and so on. So that is life, and we should encourage life, not discourage it.
Thank you, Dr. Tadesse. I think this leads me to the next question, your academic work. You have contributed immensely to the academic world. And one of the books, one of the contributions that you made, which strikes me most, is this article that is titled, "We Have Been Sold, Competing with the State and Dealing with Others." And briefly, I think this article, you will tell us, is about land and sacrifice, and land and livelihood, and also the state and land. Land is very crucial for the indigenous people, for their livelihood, for their survival, for their culture, as you said earlier on. You also contributed in the book that was co-edited by Windy James, Evading the Revolutionary State, the Horror and Under the Dark. So this is an interesting article in the sense that when Ethiopian governments change in this country of which I may say in the whole country, as you put it, there is no jubilation, and instead there is fear of the unknown. And that reminds me very much of when I grew up as a young man, when the Derg or the revolution came to power, how the chiefs of the Anuaks in Gambela were resistant because of their experience, probably, with the Ethiopian state system. So, these two books are very essential and very important to the indigenous people. Can you tell us more?
Well, I think you are the one who read them recently, so I guess your observation is right. I haven't seen them recently, but I can tell you the thing about we've been sold is a phrase I've taken from my very long time friend, who's my late friend, Halaka Shagiri, who was my teacher. He taught me about my own community. And we've traveled abroad on several occasions, and I'll send you the obituary I've written about him. He was such a great scholar without a university degree. And a great, had encyclopedic knowledge of Gamo life. And he had lots of prophecies he'd heard from elders, which of which I always think is COVID-19 that has just come. So I was so happy when I started understanding about this. But we were sold is a Gamo phrase used for losing your masculinity. When you are conquered by a different people, your thing of reproduction, you feel that it feels like you've lost your reproductive power. So aretidos is another term they use. We've been castrated. Castration is about crushing the balls, but really chopping your parts away. That's what it means we are sold. So we are just moving figures. We cannot reproduce. We cannot have children and grandchildren because your land is taken. If you've lost your land, you have no home, you have no garden, you have no mountain pastures, you have no streams. And the mountains are quite powerfully present with us. They're powerfully present because we consider they have agency. We use their names as some Ethiopians swear using their fathers' names. We use our mountain names, the mountains that help you grow herding animals. So you would swear by the name, or you take on the name of Mount Sura or Muta Mountain, or Bekeo in Ocholo, a sacred site, or Lanta, or Milo in Doka. So these are chains of lofty mountains going from. So all the kids grow there, taking care of their young lambs and sheep and all kinds of animals. So without these places, we are hopeless, useless. And when the conquest occurred in 1896, each family was distributed, or 2-3 families were distributed to the conquest soldiers. And that meant a horrible experience. Your wife worked in one homestead, your children worked in another. You plowed the land for another soldier. So who will take care of yourself and your house? So it was a complete collapse of a system, you can say. So that he was powerfully explaining that, saying our parts have been chopped off and we're not humans anymore. No more men to reproduce children. So people do not understand land. There is a different view, Land for some is immaterial, like a commodity. Land is not a commodity. Land is one of us. Land is our part, and we are part of the land. We created there, and we go there at the end. But it sustains us, and we sustain our land. We put manure there, we handle it, and there are many things we are prohibited from doing on our land. So anybody making decisions regarding land should not understand it through the eyes of the markets, should not understand it through the eyes of, economic whatever, but understand us the way we hold our lands, understand us the way we view our land, and anything to make our land economic can be achieved without a problem. Hey, instead of buying millions of, thousands and millions of tons of wheat from abroad, you can give us a loan to small farmers, and we can make the country wheat from A to Z, and we can feed whoever it is that needs feeding. We are a country that can do that and have done that, and we have tracts of land that are not mechanized, that use the hands to plow and to harvest and to weed, that feed. I know the Omo farmers on the Delta, their sorghums were loaded all the way to Desse and to the Arbaminch market. They fed part of Addis, and this was never recognized. So give us the means, and we can feed the world. But do not hurt us by not handling, by not making us, by reducing the value of our land into a commodity. It's something very precious to us. Our being depends on it. That's what I wanted to shortly say. You see, some people fight for freedom and independence by organizing the killing of some of their young people. We are not that kind of people. We simply say, this is what we love, and this is what we don't. So I'm expressing love to our land, and I hope this is understood. And so far, it has been, I think. And our mountains define us, and we define our mountains. So respecting us is respecting our land as citizens.
That is great insight, Dr. Tadesse. Viewers, before we come to our conclusion, let me invite you one music of the Gamo people, indigenous people, and then we will come back.
Thank you.
ane yoto doa ako yoto sazo koyoto atsailash yoto abba ya chamoy mole haroy botsa makayoto ugezu mayoto kulfota yoto bilbo hombo yoto wora demba izmazalai arshemo koyoto
Okay. Thank you. We are back, viewers. Thank you, Dr. Tadesse, for your insight. We have really taken much of our time to really discuss these important issues of indigenous people in Ethiopia. And today we are talking about the Gamo indigenous people. Dr. Tadesse, you mentioned that you worked on, or you are on board of, you sit on board members of different institutional organizations, including the Indigenous Peoples Assistance Facility and the International Fund for Agricultural Development. As also you mentioned, you have worked for Christians Fund. These are very important organizations for the indigenous people's movement. What do these institutions stand for? Can you tell how our people, our indigenous people in Ethiopia can benefit from these organizations?
I've been board trustee of the EPAF, Indigenous Peoples Assistance Facility, I think for more than 10 years now. And what we do is really, first, the World Bank had a small pot of money it didn't want to manage, so it donated it to IFAD to do it on its behalf, meaning giving grants to indigenous communities around the world. So they had to set up a group of trustees, so from Africa, it was me, from Latin America, from Asia, and the Pacific. So we were about 7 or so. So with each year, so every 2 years we have a pot of money which we advertise through the EPAF Secretariat located in IFAD. And they make grants, receiving applications, grant applications. They screen them, and then we have something like 30 applications from Africa, for example. It is not much, but it's quite significant that indigenous peoples are recognized for such activities. That these are indigenous communities with registration with indigenous institutions, with the United Nations link for indigenous people, UNDRIP. And so this is indigenous-led, the board, and the different institutions that apply for the grants are indigenous organizations. And from Ethiopia, we've had some 3 or so far being the grantees. And we're hoping in the future they would also look for, I think not just Ethiopia, but also other Eastern African and other African countries can apply when they should watch for advertisements, grant notices on EPAF's website through the EFAD. And there is a secretariat who's solely in charge of processing these things and bringing them to the trustees, and we process the grant and we approve the grants, and then we approve, yes, and then write recommendations to the governing council who approve the whole grant. So that's what the trustee does. And it's on cultural, on biological and other kind of areas, but on also doing projects in culturally appropriate ways. There is no dictation of, being financial institutions, but, a board that's composed of indigenous people rationally sees these things and then allows these indigenous to use their creativity to implement them. Looking Christensen Fund, as a California-based foundation, working with the world's indigenous people in all regions, like in Australia, Papua New Guinea, in Africa and Asia, Central Asia especially. And it did not work, but in Central America. So we had program officers in 5 regions actually. And then we supported projects we had program strategies for all the regions, what the program officers see worth doing, like the general theme is biocultural diversity. So maintaining the biodiversity of place as well as maintaining cultural diversity. So the thing is that where there is cultural diversity, there is biological diversity too. So it's a kind of keeping this balance in those regions that are known to be very good regions where culture and nature in a very harmonious kind of thing. Not extreme harmony, I mean, but there is a reasonable activity between the two, and one enriches the other rather than destroys it. So there are also other foundations that do similar things, like the Tamal Pai Trust, for example, used to support the spiritual life of indigenous people, any kind of clear understanding of the indigenous spiritual life, as well as agricultural systems, and so on. And there are many other. FAO has also some, I think, but it's not comparable to the one I'm saying, the IPAF and the Christensen Fund and others. The interesting thing about the Christensen Fund was it's also supported Terra Madre, the small, the slow food movement
in Rome.
Yes, to have a separate kind of additional platform for displaying or for showcasing indigenous food traditions. So since for a long time the Christensen Fund has supported them to bring indigenous peoples to show their food to the world and to be proud of their things. Because as you know, when your system is undermined, everything that belongs to you is undermined. And this has been the case for many, many years. But since you can see the emergence of superfoods and crops like quinoa and others coming from indigenous areas. And recently there was the focus on insect, I think. F has also been focused on, it was originally, I think, a friend told me, was domesticated among the Dime in South-west Ethiopia. So these are the kinds of things you add value to traditional indigenous richness that exists in our and other countries.
Well, I was almost to conclude this show, but I think you brought another interesting point.
Yeah.
Insects. One of the unique plant in Ethiopia that many group of people in Ethiopia depends on in the southern part of Ethiopia.
Yeah.
But of recent, I think the Ethiopian regime decided to give a green light to the GMOs, including insect, maize and sorghums and other, indigenous seeds. What do you say about that?
I really, my knowledge about this thing you said about the grant is very limited, so it's very difficult to comment. But having realized what's going on in Kenya and other places regarding what is GMO crops, it's a whole package. It's like having an Apple computer and then an Apple iPhone, an Apple Watch, an Apple something. So if you have one of those packages, it kind of ties you forever in that vicious. So I think I would first read about it carefully and consult with my colleagues in Ethiopia. But we live with this thing. If this is coming, we would also be there so to see and comment at a later stage. But a GMO thing does not come free of charge. It's a package. And the package puts you under heavy strain. And it may affect your reproduction, the reproduction of your own crops. But having said that, I am not clear now at what the deal is and what the status of these GMO things and when it's coming and how, whether they will be doing some experimental things or whether they would employ it at a large scale nationwide. So there must be some modality to which I'm not aware at the moment. But it has costs if it comes. It's a business you're dealing with.
Thank you, Dr. Tadesse, for your answer to that question. Before I close this show, any other points you would want to raise?
Yeah, I think I am very happy that Ethiopia's indigenous people are in the road of peace, that they're maintaining wonderful relation with among themselves and with the nation state. And I hope this situation would be kept alive. This understanding, mutual understanding is cultivated very well in the interest of everyone. And I always, I'm anxious at the moment, anxious because of the COVID-19, I'm anxious about the future of our country, I'm anxious about many things. So we would like to leave a region, and our groups need to sustain because we think we are the first peoples of our region, of our country. We do not claim origin anywhere. We are the people. So we need a degree of respect. We are not subjects of research. We are easy to understand. We're not difficult people. We don't kill, and we don't let our young people get killed to claim to have a national flag of one kind or the other. So we need to be understood from this perspective. And we appreciate Dr. Abiy for keeping a peaceful, for embracing our region and to maintain, to keep, and I want him to keep his hands open to the end to embrace indigenous people and his government as well. Thank you, Nika.
Again, thank you very much, Dr. Tadesse, for your insight, for sharing your experience of the Gamo indigenous people, your great achievement in academia, and work experience with those organizations that support indigenous people. As an elder from indigenous communities, your wisdom is immensely important for their survival. I hope my viewers enjoyed the show and took away much from our discussion. Let me conclude this show with an African proverb. A village without elderly is like a well without water. Our elder, Dr. Wolde Tadesse, has given us wisdom that will remain with us forever. And viewers, virtually, can you applaud for Dr. Tadesse for his great contribution on this show? So with this, I say good evening for those in Europe, good night to East African, good afternoon to North America, and good evening or good morning to Australia. Join us again for the next show on Indigenous Media. Thank you.